Okay. I'm not broke. See? Oh. How am I supposed to find a game to play? Oh wait, I'm so stupid. The Wii U eShop.
The Wii U eShop is a very interesting place. It's the Wii U's online game store, like Sony's PlayStation Store or Microsoft's Xbox Live Marketplace, but usually a bit more unorganized. From a quick glance at the store, it might seem like there's nothing particularly bad, and as long as you explore the Nintendo-made games and indie games, you'll find a great deal of amazing games. But when the Wii U started showing signs of failing, Nintendo released a grip on the quality standards required for games added, and now you can find the lazy, uninspired cash grabs everywhere with relatively little effort. Now granted, it isn't as horrible as something like the Android Marketplace, which I don't even need to talk about since it's pretty well known how bad that is, but it's still bad enough that it's almost like an experience browsing the storefront. Most of these were priced at a single dollar at least, but I found 2 games that caught my interest, since they didn't cost anything, so I was interested to see whether these games actually had some value to them. The first game we'll be taking a look at is Cubeshift, and based off the starting up graphic, I should set my expectations very low.
Seeing as it is the first thing that the player sees when they start the game, you think they would have attempted to make it look a little better.
You know your graphic is bad when I can make it in Photoshop in 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be amazing graphic design or anything, but you could put a little bit more effort in this. I mean, you could have used a different font that had a more interesting background, or even hired someone to make the art for you. But I guess they didn't have the budget for it. I know some of you might think I'm harping on this too much, but your first impressions on a game is one of the most important factors of a game, and this is honestly just lazy.
That's like if I started a video with me holding a low-resolution phone up to a piece of paper that you could barely read. Oh wait.
The title screen isn't much better, featuring the same generic fonts and white background, and no background music. I don't understand why so many of these games have no background music. Even if you don't have the budget or the talent, there are so many websites that provide copyright-free music that there's really no excuse to have none. As far as the game itself, it's incredibly basic. There's a red cube and the goal is to move the blocks around to make the cube fall down. And the goal is either avoid the top of the screen or the spikes. The spikes being the hardest to avoid since the hitbox is huge, and even hitting the side of spikes will kill you sometimes. You need to move the block by hitting X and B to change the block you are, and then using the left analog stick to move the blocks left to right. The control scheme actually works pretty well since separating the up and down movement from the left and right makes it so you don't accidentally do the wrong action. You could always change your blocks using the D-pad, but that makes the game almost unplayable due to the right stick not doing anything, so you constantly have to move your hand between the D-pad and the left stick. There are 3 different difficulties to choose from: easy, medium, and hard. They affect the speed in which the screen scrolls, easy being the slowest and hardest being the fastest. Easy is so slow that you'll likely be at the bottom of the screen most of your playtime, and you'll eventually end up being hit by a spike that's off screen. And hard is so fast that one mistake will lead you hitting to the top of the screen and you lose. The cube you're moving around is incredibly awkward to move since there's no semblance of weight, which makes it almost impossible to not hit a spike. That is if you don't immediately hit a spike when you first spawn in. It also tends to magically clip back onto a platform and not fall down. In fact, the whole game feels really unpolished all around. The presentation also doesn't help this at all, since everything is a static color and the outlines of the boxes are really inconsistent and constantly overlap each other. It makes this thing with a phone aspect ratio, and this is one of the most generic games I've ever played. Speaking of phones, this game is actually available on the Android Marketplace, and apparently it's in beta.
Finished the game, released it on Wii U.
The phone version really doesn't want to be found. It will only appear on the App Store if you type Cubeshift in all caps. This version is pretty rough. Rather than using the touchscreen for menus and selecting what block to use, you have to use these really tiny buttons on the bottom of the screen. And to move the blocks left and right, instead of simply sliding the screen, you have to tap the block to make it move either left or right, which has a set movement speed. Well, direction they move alternates every time you tap, rather than just moving based on what side of the screen you tap. It feels incredibly abnormal to do this, and even after you get used to it, if you would have just preferred it to work different. For some reason, the phone version is really dark. I had to turn up my brightness a lot to make this game look normal. Although this is likely a side effect of the game having a bright white background, I didn't want it to lead to several dead pixels. If for some reason my phone really wanted to copy the text up, which means you have to constantly stop and tap the screen to make it go away so you can continue playing. All these problems lead to the game being extremely clunky and extremely hard to play. I would stay away from the phone version of this game unless the controls get fixed. Overall, even though it's very repetitive in design and doesn't have the best presentation, the game is very fun for what it is. It is free, so there really isn't any harm trying it out. The game only really being playable on Wii U doesn't help its case that much though. I'd say it's okay for a quick download or 2 if you got the console version. The next game we're looking at is Daikon set, and right off the bat it is looking promising. This startup screen shows it doesn't take much to make a nice looking startup screen, so my expectations already higher than Cubeshift. After the company logos, we get a press start screen, likely a reference to NES era games. In fact, this whole collection is going for retro vibes, having simplistic graphics and controls that mostly consist of just the D-pad and the A-button to replicate the Atari 2600 controller. After pressing start, we're shown the game's official logo, then we are brought to the screen with 3 Famicom cartridges and a credits option. Starting with the first game, Chrome Store, we are presented with a box art markup of what it would have looked like, and it really looks like something out of that era.
Honestly, the presentation of this game is very impressive. They put in a lot of extra effort to make it really look like a game of that era.
The goal of this game is to keep the enemy ships that kind of look like fox heads from reaching the line on the bottom of the screen by shooting them to make them move upward. You move left and right with the D-pad, the joystick isn't used in Daikon set, most likely to keep the retro themes, and use the X1 and A button to shoot different colored bullets. Black ships are affected by old bullet colors, but the color changing ones are only affected by the bullet color that corresponds with what color they are currently. You have to hold the enemies back until the song that plays in the background is over. Although the gameplay is repetitive, level 1 doesn't last long enough for me to really find it an issue. Level 2 is more the same, except there's giant ships that'll take more bullets to hit, so it's slightly more difficult than the first, but nothing particularly that challenging. Level 3 is actually a boss fight. It is a color changing enemy ship at the top of the screen that shoots at you, and the goal is to dodge its shots and hit it with the right colored bullets until it runs out of health. The boss has 2 main attacks, moving left and right and a teleport move. The best method of attack is to move left and right in the way to drain the large portion of the boss's health. The boss is pretty challenging if you aren't paying attention, and it's really satisfying when you finally defeat it. The boss fight alone makes this game worth playing in my opinion.
Even if this game was extremely basic, Chrome Store is still fun to play, honestly.
Next game in the collection is called Pinkmite. The gameplay of this one consists of pressing A to do a short jump up, kinda like Flappy Bird, and you have to collect diamonds while avoiding the bombs placed around the area. If you miss a dot or hit a bomb, you die and you have to restart the area all over again. I'm not sure what a dot appears where you jump, but it looks nice, so I assume that was the purpose. The butterfly's left and right turning has kind of a weird arc to it, which makes it kind of hard to avoid bombs sometimes. This level isn't too hard, but it feels like it lasts really long, but this was helped by the game's music. Although the actual gameplay is very repetitive after like 30 seconds, the admittedly catchy music keeps the game from getting as boring. In fact, the soundtrack is honestly one of the best aspects of this game. It is way too good for an obscure free game on the Wii U, and I honestly recommend trying to hunt down the OST to this game. The best song, the Pinkmite one, is the only one I've managed to find on YouTube, and it's amazing. The mix of the rhythmic jumps combined with the atmospheric music leads you to being in a trance-like state when you play this game. Overall, the first level isn't that hard, you just need to be careful to not overturn and hit the spikes.
Level 2. Oh, I have plenty to talk about Level 2.
Level 2 of Pinkmite is one of the most frustrating experiences I've ever had playing a video game. It all comes down to the level's gimmick, the pink laser. Now at first glance, this pink laser might not seem like that big of a deal, but this thing is your worst nightmare. Generally, it's pretty easy to dodge, just move out of the way when it comes close to you, but when you're near the bottom of the screen trying to grab a diamond or dodging a bomb, sometimes you have no choice but to get hit by the laser. It feels like luck whether or not the laser hits you. Sometimes I swear I can read your movements to be in the worst possible location. If you stay closer to the top of the screen, you'll have less time to react to the laser coming toward you. Staying near the sides of the screen doesn't help either, because if the diamond's on the other side of the screen, you won't have enough time to grab it. So you end up having to balance being high enough to grab the diamonds and being so high that the laser will hit you easier, which ends up making this level extremely frustrating. The best strategy I found is to stay relatively in the middle of the stage, so you have easier access to the diamonds, but you have to actively avoid the laser, and just hope that the laser doesn't kill me in the 3 minutes and 20ish seconds that the level lasts. I honestly have no idea why such a sharp difficulty spike exists in this game. Chrome Store wasn't this ridiculous with its difficulty. With enough patience and luck, you can end up passing this level. Just expect frustration along the way. Okay, now for what I believe to be the first time ever shown on YouTube, Level 3. Level 3 decides instead of one fast laser, they'll go with 2 lasers instead. The laser that comes from the top seems to move at the same speed as the lasers from level 2, but the lasers that appear at the bottom move pretty slow and are easier to avoid. I normally complain about more lasers, but the developers seem to think it was overkill as well, because level 3 seems to have significantly less bombs than the first 2 levels. I think level 3 is actually easier than level 2 if I'm being honest. It's still challenging, but not as infuriating as level 2 was. The complete screen for this one even has a HUD on it rather than a blank one from Chrome Store. Overall, I still recommend Pinkmite for the music and the level 1, but the other 2 levels you just need to know what you're getting into so you don't get as mad as I did. The final game in the collection is The Queen. In this game you play as a rectangle with 2 ends like a magnet. There's a ball bouncing around the area. One of the rectangles is vulnerable towards the ball and one isn't. The goal is to not get hit by the ball for a certain amount of time. You have a shield move that allows the ball to not do any damage to you. It works like that one hooded minigame from Pokemon Stadium. The game has the most Atari 2600 vibes of the older games, mostly due to the graphics and how simple the game is overall. The other two levels just have more balls to dodge, and if you try to dodge them normally in these levels, it's actually very difficult. Sometimes one of the balls will end up circling around the edge a couple times so they can't hurt you, which is useful for saving the shield. The best strategy I have for this one is to try to get as many balls stuck moving up and down as possible, so you end up having to use less shields so you can last longer. Even still, this game is definitely the most annoying out of the three. Whether or not you win just feels like luck. Especially in the third level, it's extremely easy to die from the first 20 seconds due to when you go from sideways to up or down, you can't end up sticking out so you can end up getting hit when you just want to dodge the ball. It feels like you can't predict whether or not you actually get hit, and you end up just keep trying until hopefully you can complete the level. In fact, out of the 3 games in this collection, this is the only one I wasn't able to complete. I wanted to finish all 3 games in this review, but the Queen just tested my patience way too much for me to want to continue. So now I've played both these games, the question is, are these games really worth trying out? Although Cubeshift is really unpolished and Clay didn't have a whole lot of thought put into it, if you want to try it, there isn't any harm in it. Just don't get the phone version. The controls are just too imprecise for me to see anyone having too much fun with it, so I'd avoid that version unless the controls get updated. As far as Daikon set goes, if you still play on your Wii U, I highly recommend it. It's perfect if you're a fan of old school Atari games. Also, the games are a great deal of fun, and if you like a nice deal of challenge, you'll get plenty of it. And considering that it's completely free, there's honestly little reason not to play it. I hope the developers end up putting this to the Switch so more people can experience it. So that was 2 free Wii U games. I was honestly surprised, especially with Daikon set. It had an amount of polish that I wasn't exactly expecting. But anyway, that's the end of the video. I have no idea how to end this video, so I'm just gonna stand up and walk away.